Hello, my name is Jim Gamble and I'm a puppeteer. I would like to welcome you today to my puppet workshop. Audiences, after seeing my puppet shows, are usually interested to know something more about puppets. So I'd like to spend a few moments with you and show you different kinds of puppets and give you some ideas about how you can make puppets yourselves. First of all, I'd like to explain that a puppet is simply anything that you can move and give life to. And it can be something as simple as just a school book. Here's a book puppet that I made by just using some rubber bands around half the pages like this, and the other half so that it will fit around your hand. And then with a bookmark in the middle and maybe a piece of paper with a face on it, you can have a book puppet. Hi. Well, what's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a book talk before? Well, this is one kind of puppet that's easy to make, and you don't have to destroy the book to make a book puppet. But there are other kinds of puppets too. One of the easiest to make is a finger puppet. And you can make a finger puppet out of any kind of shape that you like. This ball makes a nice finger puppet. You just drill a hole in it large enough for your finger, and you can make a nice little finger puppet like this.
Well, what's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a ball-headed puppet before?
Here's the end of a curtain rod. He kind of looks like the king.
Well, you're the king, huh?
Yep, I am the king.
But you don't have any clothes on.
Well, if you want to give your puppet clothing, you can take a scarf or a piece of fabric and drape it over your hand like this, and then put your ball on the top of the hand, and you have a nice little ghost puppet.
Oh, I see. You still don't have any clothes on.
But you're nicely dressed. You can use a glove. Here's a glove that's a lot of fun at Halloween. I just stuffed some cottons into the ends of the fingers, and now I have a three-headed monster. You can give him 3 names if you like. Another kind of puppet that you put your hand inside of is called a hand puppet. Some people even call it a fist puppet because you make a fist inside of the puppet. Sometimes you use your middle and third finger for the hands. Other times people use their little finger and fourth finger as well as their thumb to make it work like this. So here's a nice little hand puppet. And his head is made simply out of a styrofoam ball covered with felt. I'll show you how to do this in a minute. Okay, say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye.
Okay, come on, let's go. Of course, there are many other kinds of puppets too. This one is a shadow puppet that I purchased when I was on a trip to China. Now, shadow puppets are made so that the light shines through the puppet. And then sometimes you hold it up and put the light behind it and hold it up next to a big screen, sort of like a sheet that's spread out on a frame of some sort. Other times, these can be solid colors like a cardboard that you can make work. You can get a lot of action out of these shadow puppets. Another kind of puppet that's worked with rods is a rod puppet. This one's a traditional type that comes from Indonesia. You can see the rods to make the hands work and the head. But I have some more modern rod puppets. Here's a rod puppet from my production of Carnival of the Animals. This cat actually has 3 rods, one to the head, one to the middle, and one to the tail. In this way, I can make it go in either direction. And another one here is a little starfish from the same show. have an extra rod to each of the feet and one to hold it up straight. I'll show you how to make this as well in a moment. Now, the last kind of puppet that most people ask about is a marionette. And a marionette is also known as a string puppet. Either term is correct. To make a marionette like this, you need, of course, to make the legs and the arms and a body. For the arms and the legs of a marionette, I frequently use wooden dowels. Now, a dowel is a round piece of wood like a broom handle or a mop handle or a broomstick. What you do is you cut it straight through and then cut 2 notches so that when you put a piece of leather in the middle, it will hinge. But you only put the notch on one side so that it only hinges in one direction. You don't want your knee to go the other way, nor do you want your elbow to go backwards. So with a piece of leather in the center and the back side of this cut straight through and the notch on this side, you can make it bend one direction. So to put the piece of leather in there and make it hold really well, I put some little nails in there as well as some glue to hold it. And that makes a nice arm like this. Or you can turn it all the way over and use it for a leg like this. Here's a marionette with an elbow made of the dowel and the leather, as I just showed you. For the body of the marionette, I sometimes take a plywood cutout just in the shape of the body and the hips, and either put a piece of leather in between or a piece of fabric, and I glue and staple it so that it will bend. And then to flesh it out, nobody wants a skinny puppet. I take some foam rubber and cut it the same shape and put contact cement on both the plywood and the foam rubber. And then I simply glue it together. Glue another piece on the back and the same as on the hips. And then with a pair of scissors, you start cutting away the part that you don't want, which leaves the body, which was hiding inside of the foam rubber all the time. This marionette will do just about anything any human can do once you put the strings in the proper places. Starting from the top, we have to have strings on the head just to hold the puppet up. So that's 2 strings, 2 more on the shoulders, 1 in the back, 1 on each hand, and 1 on each knee. If you want to make the marionette walk, you simply pull the strings to the knees, 1 knee and the other, and the marionette will walk. If you want to make him bow, you pull on the string that goes to his back, and he will bow. If you want to make the marionette look up, sometimes I add a special string to the puppet's nose right here, so that when I pull on his nose, he looks up to me. And sometimes also I add an extra string on the heel, especially if I want to make the marionette kick. Some of the dancing marionettes also have strings on the front of the leg down around the ankle so that they can give kind of a kick step in a dancing routine. Not all the strings that you sometimes use on a marionette, because if it's fairly complicated, you may want to add some more. For my production of Peer Gynt, here's Peer himself. And as you can see, on the inside of him, he has a body similar to this one. Here's his shoulders with two strings to the shoulders that go back to this part of the control. Here's a string on this hand I tie up to here, one on the other side to there, and two strings to the head so that he can tip his head forward or turn to the left or to the right. But since Pierre also has movable eyes, I had to add some extra strings to make his eyes move. And then there's another string down to his jaw so that as I pull that, he can actually talk to you. For his knees, there's walking strings to the knee right there. But I also have added some other strings to his ankles so that he can do a little kick step. All the strings are tied to a controller. Every single controller for each marionette is somewhat different because each puppet is different. If you have a larger marionette, you have to have larger controllers. I like to design them such a way that I can grab all the strings in here with my fingers very closely, so that with my thumb, I can make him walk with this rocking bar. Here I can lift his hand by lifting this rod. Same over there. There's his mouth, and there his elbows. And if you'll notice, I do all of that with just one hand, which leaves my other hand free to work another marionette or to get a lot of action out of his legs. There he is, ready to fly away on his magic carpet. Say goodbye to everybody, Pierre. Bye! Here's Camille Sanson from our production of Carnival of the Animals. As you can see, he has a rod to his head and one to his body. They fit together like this so that you can hold them in one hand. Then I have another rod to each of his hands that extend from his elbows. So when he turns around, he can wave, or he can pick up the pen and actually do his writing. To make Camille walk, you just twist his body a little bit so that his feet are able to swing and look like he's walking. Take a nice bow for me. An easy way to make feet for a puppet is to take a styrofoam egg. You cut it down the center so that you have 2 feet. I usually put a piece of cardboard or maybe wood on the bottom, and then take a piece of felt. You cut it into the shape that you want. Then you can take some white glue, put it onto the felt, spread it out, and then stretch this felt right down over the styrofoam. Once the glue dries, it will make that felt nice and stiff over the styrofoam base. And take a pair of scissors and cut off the excess. You've covered the styrofoam, and that gives it a nice strong surface. You can also use the same method as I showed you with the foot for making a head of a puppet. Styrofoam ball, and you take the felt, put the glue on it, and then stretch it down over the styrofoam. Here's a secret. You see, once the felt gets a little bit wet with the glue, you can stretch it, especially in one direction, so it'll stretch and cover almost 3/4 of the ball without even having a seam. And where it doesn't cover, that's where you put the hair. So once you have the position on the hair, you kind of rotate it up a bit, and right in the center, you press in an indentation to insert the nose. You can use a ball for the nose, or you can use a long rod or a cone shape for your nose. Then you can press in to the styrofoam eye sockets and then finish it off with some fur or fringe or felt. Now if you want to make a hand puppet like I showed you earlier, you can take a cardboard tube and put it in there just so it's large enough to fit on your finger. And then if you don't like the color of the felt, you can always paint it. Here's one that I painted, and then I added buttons for the eyes. Buttons make nice eyes because as the light hits the buttons and reflects back into your eyes, just a little bit of movement of the puppet makes him look like he's looking right at you. See how the light catches those eyes? Then you can, of course, finish it with some fur or some fringe or even your own hair if you like. For this puppet, I added a larger tube so I could put 2 fingers in it. But if I want to make a marionette, then I would use a piece of doweling. Let's see if there's one. There's one. So I can take the whole dowel and push it up into the styrofoam ball to form a neck. Then when you attach your neck to the marionette, I use pieces of nylon cord or sometimes some more leather. It makes a nice little marionette for you. There are many other kinds of marionettes also. Here's one I made out of a scarf and a styrofoam ball on the inside, and then a pair of sunglasses just for fun. In this case, I just add one string that goes from his right hand up through a little eye screw up here, down to the left hand, so that as I pull one string on one side, it makes the other hand and feet bounce around and do a nice little dance. For his head, it takes 3 strings, one on either side and one on the very center, and I tie it to a cross piece here, which is the controller. So if I want to make his head move, I just move the controller like that, and he can be a nice little dancer. For my production of the Nutcracker, I tied 3 of these balls together and then had 3 different colors. And so the 3 together dance. My little starfish is fun, and this is an easy kind of rod puppet to make because all you need is a rod that goes into the back into the puppet itself. And if you don't have a wooden rod, you can use the old standby coat hanger. The middle parts of this kind of coat hanger is nice because you can glue it right to the styrofoam or to the foam rubber. Here's a piece of foam rubber and cut it out into the shape of a star. Once you have the star, you cut a little piece in the back there and put the glue on it, stick it in the back, you'd have a nice little star. Very easy and a lot of fun to make. You don't even need the foam rubber. You could make this out of cardboard if you wanted to. Here's a star from my production of the Carnival of the Animals, and I added a rod to each of his feet as well as the rod that I showed you earlier, so I can make him dance on a table. So now you know something about finger puppets, hand puppets, shadow puppets, rod puppets, and marionettes. And I hope to be able to show you how you can make even more complicated puppets in the future. I hope you enjoyed my visit or your visit to my workshop. I hope you have enjoyed this program from our series, Musical Classics for Children. For information on our other productions, contact your local video distributor or BEI.